Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Language Lounge. So, I'm now 2 weeks in. Yeah, 2 weeks in. And I've been really good about studying every day, so that's a plus. I'm on lesson 7. I'm kind of towards the end of lesson 7 in the Japanese from Zero. So I'm doing pretty good. Like I said, I have yet to miss a day, so I'm trying to keep that up. I wanted to kind of go over less about like what I'm doing, and I kind of want to talk about like how I'm studying, like when I'm studying it, I guess. So, because like I said in the last video, I'm studying generally around an hour to an hour and a half a day. Like at the very least, I'm studying about 30 to 45 minutes. But I think that happened like maybe one day. So I kind of wanted to just go over kind of how I'm doing it, and when I'm doing it really. So what has happened, especially recently. So it started out that I was studying on lunch, and then a little bit after, or on my lunch break from work, and then a little bit after work, and that's just the only times I was studying really. In the last kind of few days, I've kind of changed it up a little bit. So what I'm now doing is, so Anna and I both go to work at 6 in the morning. So, and she usually leaves before I do because she takes Aiden over to her mom's house, so that she can watch him while we're at work. And so she's usually out of the house or the apartment by 5:20 or something like that. And so usually right before that, I've taken Ellie out. And what I've started doing now is I come back inside and I get ready for work and everything. So usually about 5:25, 5:30. Is usually when I just kind of am ready to go, and I just kind of sit and wait until it's time to leave because I only work about 6 blocks away. So it takes me like 3 minutes to get there. And so I just kind of sit or hang around, and I feed the animals and everything. But once I'm ready to go and everything, and the animals been fed, then what I've now started doing is I will come in here in the den, and I will do some studying then. So usually I get, because I usually have to leave the apartment by 5:45 to 5:50. So I usually get about 15 to 25 minutes, depending on when I come into the den to start studying. So about 15 to 25 minutes in the morning. Then I go to work, and I work from 6 a.m. until 3 p.m. And usually my lunch break is around like 10-ish, something like that. It kind of depends on the day. And I will come home for my lunch break because I get about an hour break from lunch, and I will take Ellie out, and then I come back inside, get my food and everything, and then I just sit here while I'm studying. Usually it's in the bedroom by that point so that I can charge my phone for a while, and I will then spend my lunch break studying while I'm eating. And so usually I can get about 20 to 30 minutes of studying in there before I have to go back. So there already has been almost an hour. Some days an hour, kind of depends. Then I come home, and while I'm waiting for Anna to come back home, because she works a little further away, while I'm waiting for her to get off and come home, I will spend that time studying as well. Like I come home and I take Ellie out, and then I just come in here and I just study Japanese until Anna gets home. That's pretty much what happens. So that's usually 15 to 20 minutes, something like that. So it's been almost an hour and a half at that point. And then we go and pick up Aiden and everything, and then we come back home. We have our dinner and everything. And then the last time that I study, usually about 8 o'clock at night, we lay down in bed and start to get Aiden ready for bed. And we give him his bottle and everything. So usually I lay in bed from 8 to 9 or a little after, and I'm just kind of like watching some Netflix or YouTube or whatever on my phone until Aiden falls asleep. Then, once Aiden falls asleep, I get up. Well, once he's been asleep for a little bit, because you learn with children, they fall asleep right that first time that they fall asleep at night. It takes them, they may look like they're asleep, but it takes them another 5 to 10 minutes after that before they're actually asleep. So don't fall for that. So once Aiden is fully asleep, so he's fallen asleep and I've given him the 5 to 10 minutes, usually it's like 9 to 9:15 by that point. Then I get up and I come out here into the den and I study some more, because by that point Anna's usually asleep too. So I come out and I sit down in the den and I do some more studying. And I usually study until 10 o'clock. So that can be 45 minutes, that can be 30 minutes, sometimes it's 20 minutes. Depends on when Aiden falls asleep. Most of the time it's about 45 minutes. And so actually I have now studying pretty darn close to 2 hours, a little over 2 hours a day. So, and I'm not just like going through the lesson and writing things down. Like, I'm a lot of times going back into the lessons. So like I'm on lessons most of the way through lesson 7. Usually what I'll do is then go back through it a little bit and just kind of do a light review of that lesson, just to make sure that I understood everything, make sure I got everything out of it that I could. That way I'm not just like, doing what everybody does in high school where they're just like, oh, cool, I'm done. And then, because that's usually when you tend to forget things, or you just really didn't fully learn it, or things like that. So yeah, it's about a little over 2 hours a day. And like I said before, I am taking notes while I'm doing it. Like I have 29 pages of notes right now. I'm on the 30th one I just flipped over. And it's starting to look pretty good. So I've learned enough of the hiragana now that there's a lot of words that I can just straight up write in the hiragana characters. There's only a few left. I know I still have to learn like ra, ri, ru, re, and ro. I know those are some ones I still have to learn. I know n is one that I haven't learned yet. So there's still a couple of sets left. I think I learned hiragana through lesson, like, I believe it's lesson 10 or something like that. I'd have to look. So it's going pretty good. But like I said last time, hopefully before too long, whether it's when I'm going through this one or when I'm going through book 2 or 3 up there, hopefully not book 3, but hopefully at some point in book 2 I can start actually fully forming sentences on my own in Japanese. And I will start, once I do that, I'll start kind of using Japanese in the videos a little bit. And if any of you are watching this and know Japanese, or at least know how it's supposed to be pronounced or anything like that, then feel free to let me know how I'm doing. Like, I love having feedback like that. Like, oh, you're not pronouncing this correctly, or you did this, sentence structure wrong. Okay, cool. Now I can work on that. So one of the things I'm hopefully going to try once I've gone through at least a large portion of these books is I want to sit down sometime with one of the programs. So I know there's a lot of programs, like there's Hello Talk, italki. There's quite a few of them where you can set an appointment and sit down with a native speaker of your target language, and just like talk to them, and they'll give you pointers, or they'll teach you different things. So if you're saying something one way, they'll teach you another way to say it that's more common, or something, anything like that. So once I've gotten far enough through these, I would like to be able to sit down and do something like that. Be able to Skype somebody who's a native Japanese speaker, so that I can work on actually speaking, because that's gonna be my biggest roadblock. The biggest roadblock for me is because I don't really have anybody that I can speak with. There's I have one friend, or two friends really. I have one friend who works at Anna's, and with Anna, and she knows some Japanese. She was in Japanese in school, like into college, I think. And she always tells me about her sensei. I think one of the things she said was in Japanese was she called her sensei an oni, which is a demon. It was really funny. And but I recognized what she said. This was quite a while ago. I recognized what she said just because oni, because of watching anime and different things like that. I knew what the word oni meant, and I knew what sensei meant, and so I could kind of get the gist of what she was saying. And so it was just kind of fun. I was like, "Did you just call your teacher an oni?" And she just laughed. But I also have another friend, Jess, who knows a little bit of Japanese. Not as much as the other friend does, but she does know some. So hopefully I'll be able to get to that point. Like I said, my end goal, and I'll probably mention this in every video, just so that I can keep, because it kind of keeps it fresh in my mind. And if any of you are working through something like this, you're learning Japanese, Mandarin, Cantonese, Spanish, German, whatever you're learning, is make sure you reiterate your goal to yourself constantly. Like, I'm constantly telling myself, okay, like while I'm at work even, I'm like, okay, I want to learn Japanese to this point before we go to Disney World in December. That's one of my goals. I mean, my end goal would be that I learn it I would like to learn Japanese to a native level, but I would take learning Japanese to just a really, really high level of fluency. That I would take that. Ellie's whining at something. I don't know what it is she's whining at. She sees something. But yeah, just one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is constantly remind yourself of that goal. Because if you lose sight of your goal, especially if you're like me and you have ADD, if you lose sight of your goal, you will find yourself getting incredibly discouraged at your lack of progress. Like, one thing, you'll see a lack of progress because you've kind of lost sight of your goal and you're just kind of doing it because it's become routine. And yes, you want it to be a routine, but you want it to be fun. You want it to be something that you want to do. I'm having fun doing this. I lose track of time while I'm studying. This hasn't happened the last times that I've studied Japanese, German, whichever one. But I'm having fun doing it now because I'm keeping that end goal in mind. So, and so it's easy for me to get up in the morning and sit down and study, and then come home on my lunch break and sit down and study, and come home after work to sit down and study, and then right before bed to sit down and study. It's becoming easy to do that because I'm having so much fun doing it, and I just completely lose track of time. There was one night I sat down at 9:15. I think it was the first night that I did that. I sat down at 9:15 and was just studying and writing things down, and I was just going on. And then all of a sudden I looked at my phone, and it was almost 10:30, and I was like, oh, I need to go to bed. And so I just completely lost track of time and just was studying for almost an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes. So you want it to be fun, but one of the ways that you can do that is keep that end goal in mind. If you have something that you're shooting for, make it something as simple as, I want to watch anime without the subtitles. Okay. If that's your goal, okay, keep that in mind. Watch as much anime as you can. And one of the things you can do is just turn off the English subtitles. Watch an anime that you've already seen before. Like I'm doing that currently with Sword Art Online, because I've seen it, I think, twice. Maybe 3 times. No, I think it was twice. And so I know the story of that, because I've seen it a couple of times. And so I'm just sitting down and I'm turning off the subtitles completely. And I'm just listening, because I know kind of what they're saying, and I can pick up a few words, and so I can kind of get the gist of some of the things that they're saying. And so that's one thing to encourage yourself too, is sit down without the subtitles in an anime, and just sit there and listen, see how much you can recognize, because you'll start to be able to recognize more and more phrases. Do the same thing with any language. Watch something in that language. You'll start to realize that you're hearing things, you're hearing phrases, and you don't need those subtitles for some of those phrases. They'll say something and you're like, I know what you said, and that's the point you want to get to. But do anything you can to make it fun, do something like that. Make sure you keep your end goal in mind, or things like that. So, and make sure that it might take a little while, but do kind of the way that I have, and just kind of figure out when you have the ability and the time to study. So for me, like I said, I have the time and ability to study before work, on my lunch break, immediately after work, and right before bed, because those are the times that either Aiden isn't here, or Aiden's asleep, or something like that. And so but it's taken me a couple of weeks, almost 2 weeks, to figure that out, because I've only been doing that for like 4 days now. So it took me a week and a half to figure out that was how I could do it. So you just gotta kind of go with it. So, but thank you all for joining me today. Hopefully I will have some more progress to show you next week, and cooking right along. Like I said, lesson 7, it's taken me 2 weeks to get almost through lesson 7, so I'm getting close to the end of this one, and I'll be able to start the second book here before too terribly long. So thank you all for joining me, and don't forget to thank the Phoenicians.
Let's get some sun, baby, it's time to go.